What is a smoky and hot Tuesday across Central Oregon? In the next couple of days, another shift in our weather pattern is expected. But yes, this heat will stay with us. Yes, this smoke will stay with us. And we have a risk of thunderstorms through the day tomorrow, mostly during the afternoon and evening hours of Wednesday. Hey, everyone. I'm Darrell Winninger, Chief Meteorologist at Central Oregon Daily News. We are about to do a deep dive into your most reliable forecast. Look at what's been happening today, how these changes that are on the way are really going to impact our weather pattern and what that means for us right here in Central Oregon. Let's start off with what it looks like right here and right now. Across the high desert, there's just a whole lot of smoke. In fact, from Bachelor overlooking Tumalo Mountain, you can barely make out Tumalo Mountain. From Bend over looking towards the southeast from the ODOT building, you can see Pilot Butte there, but just barely. And in each one of these cameras, it helps paint the picture that it is just a smoky day on the high desert. But let's focus on some of those Oregon Hazard Labs cameras. There are a couple more. We actually have several all across Central Oregon. Just to look at a few of them, we have some additional cloud cover that we can actually see from the Hampton Butte camera. Outside of that, we cannot see much. Now, this Hinkle Butte camera has been pointed at the fire through the last several days, really since it started. Just one of the fires. It's the Acaba Butte fire. There are several of them all across Central Oregon, and this next graphic helps illustrate that. This is a time lapse of our air quality. We're going to be getting into it, but at 7 o'clock, most of us had unhealthy air quality, and a good portion, almost a half of Central Oregon, had very unhealthy air quality. And this is all the hourly average from the DEQ and airnow.gov. So even some of your purple air sensors were showing even worse air quality conditions. But what I want you to focus on with this graphic is those white areas. Each one of those is a different fire. So you have the Acaba fire right here. You have several of them going all the way into Wheeler, and then Grant County. There's even a couple as well. There's the Brewer fire. There's a few more, and even some up towards Antelope and Shaniko that we're continuing to track. Several in Crook County as well. Some of these are even actually entire complexes that we're continuing to track as well. But this morning we had that poor air quality, and fast forward all the way through the morning hours, it was either unhealthy or very unhealthy air quality for the hourly average, not even some of the real-time sensors. In fact, I hiked Pilot Butte this morning at around 10 a.m., and you could barely see anything. You couldn't even make out Aubrey Butte off in the distance or any of the Cascades. And then fast forward a little bit more, and through the afternoon, we actually started to see quite a bit of improvement. The reason why is you have to think of the air mass as a vertical column, okay? So as that vertical column heats up, the air expands. The same thing happens in your tires. That's why when it gets really cool really quickly, you actually have to put more air into your tires because the air inside those tires compresses because of the cold temperatures. Flip that. And as it heats up, that air expands. And with the expanding air, that gives more room in the atmosphere for these smoke particles to be, and that actually makes it look like it's thinning out a little bit. But by tonight, it's going to settle right back in. We're looking at another round of poor air quality, and tonight it's going to be very mild. Now, quick look at current conditions right now, air quality wise. For most of Central Oregon, it's either orange or red, which means unhealthy for sensitive groups. And that's not just the hourly average, but also the real-time sensors, all courtesy of eSpace Labs. That's a local company in Bend that puts these out there. And there is one sensor in Lapine that's moderate, and one just north of Crescent, just south of the Deschutes County line, that is good. It doesn't look like it's going to stay good for very long because more smoke is going to be pouring into parts of Central Oregon. So just focusing on those smoke plumes, looking across the entire state. It's not just the fires that we've been talking about in Central Oregon. North Central Oregon has some fires. It looks like there's one well to the west of Pendleton, another one well to the east of Pendleton, pardon me, and another one well to the east of Baker City, but also north of Medford. We're still tracking that fire there. Doesn't look like it's as active as the ones in and around Central Oregon, but these are all putting smoke in our air, and through the rest of this evening, the winds start to taper off. Then temperatures begin to cool. Now, it's not going to get chilly by any means, but those temperatures are going to cool enough for that vertical column to compress a little bit more, spreading out this smoke, bringing it closer to the surface, and this is when, by 7 a.m., we're looking at another round of poor air quality. That smoke sticks around through most of the day Wednesday, but also on Wednesday, we have a chance of thunderstorms. That's going to do two different things. Number one, Areas that get rain could get some clearing as far as the smoke goes. But we also have a risk of thunderstorm activity, and where we have thunderstorms, we're worried about more fires starting because those surface fuels are very dry, in fact, cured in some parts of central Oregon. But then by the time we get to Thursday, not as bad with the smoke. But again, as long as these fires continue to burn, smoke's going to be an issue. So we have an air quality alert for about half of the state, all of eastern Oregon, all of central Oregon, and around Portland, Salem, coming up the west slopes of the Cascades, and then down towards Medford. All of these are in place until further notice, and that's because of the fires that are burning. Now, when it comes to weather alerts, other weather alerts, there's a red flag warning for all of central, all of south central, and portions of southwestern Oregon because of this risk of thunderstorm activity tomorrow. Outside of that, there's a series of heat advisories that stay in place until 11 p.m. Thursday. So it's going to be hot, it's going to be smoky, some thunderstorms are expected, and this potential of thunderstorm activity isn't really being driven by a main front pushing through the region. What's happening is actually this is what happens when moisture, subtropical moisture, meets the heat of the high desert. And even today we have some light showers. Not all of this is actually reaching the ground, a majority of it evaporating before it reaches the surface, pardon me. But when we go ahead and look a little bit closer, we can see some of those sprinkles over Paulina, and hopefully that's helping with that I think it's the Henry Fire around and south of Paulina. But let's look a little further to the south. Between Willamette Pass and Crater Lake, there's actually a pair of thunderstorm cells that is producing some lightning. So far, it's nothing spectacular, but I did call for a chance of isolated thunderstorms today. That's pretty much what we're seeing, and those are just mostly staying in the highest elevations of central Oregon through the Cascades. So that's what we're talking about when it comes to today's chance of thunderstorm activity. And when we look at the bigger picture, we did not see much at all in the way of lightning. In fact, when we just focus on the Tri-County area, we do not have any lightning strikes in the last 12 hours. When we look at the entire state, a total of 190, and most of that is way out over Idaho. Getting into Montana, when we move the camera just a little bit, it looks like a dozen or so lightning strikes, 15 to be precise, and that's mostly with that single cell that's south of Crescent, north of Crater Lake in the Cascades. Now, when we look at the bigger picture, we're tracking a couple of things. The first thing that we're tracking is this plume of moisture coming right into central Oregon. And you might think the first question you might have might be, where's that coming from? We're going to get to that. Second is when we look out over Nevada, getting over into Utah, further out off to the east, there is a lot of thunderstorm activity. This is also part of that plume of moisture. And that plume of moisture is coming from a post-tropical cyclone, a LIDA. And it was a hurricane, then it was a tropical storm. We were talking about it yesterday, but this is what's putting all of that subtropical moisture this far north. That's what's pumping into the Pacific Northwest, and that's what's going to give us the instability required for some thunderstorms through the day tomorrow. So let's get straight to it. Let's look at a forecast model. Sorry, I bumped the mic there. Let's look at the forecast model, because here, through the overnight hours, we're not looking at much of anything. In fact, through the next couple of hours, maybe a shower or maybe a thunderstorm cell pops up that fizzles out. And then overnight, we actually start to clear out. But let's go ahead and open this up. Let's look at this a little bit carefully. I'm manipulating the graphics, so I'll be moving the time bar back and forth. So you might see it go back in time, might see it go forward in time. It's really just to help us nail down what's going to happen when we put it on a rocker like that. So here through the day tomorrow, mostly clear to partly cloudy conditions and freeze frame during the late morning, getting into the early afternoon hours. That's when some convection starts to spark up a few thunderstorms. Now, going forward through the rest of the afternoon, by the time we get to 3 p.m., some of those scattered storms into Deschutes County. Then by the time we get to 5 p.m., scattered thunderstorms possible for parts of the high desert. But it really looks like these are garden variety pulse thunderstorms, where they're going to pulse up and then start to rain, produce a bunch of lightning, then fizzle out. Not really being driven by anything other than where that heat and that moisture are meeting up to provide enough convection. And then by the time we get to Wednesday night, clearing. By the time we get to Thursday, tons of sunshine, some clouds. By the time we get to Friday, we keep that sunshine. Notice on Thursday, the only chance of thunderstorms is over eastern Oregon. And so tomorrow is pretty much our chance. Let's do it one more time. Through Wednesday, during the midday hours, we start to catch a little bit of convection. Those little cells bubbling up. That's the convection. And it looks like just some scattered thunderstorms fizzling out as quickly as they pop up on radar. And then by the time we get to the evening hours and sunset, it really starts to wrap up. So let's look at a couple of other factors that typically go hand in hand with this kind of pulse thunderstorm activity. When it comes to relative humidity, today it is dry. Notice though, it's not critically dry. We're not seeing single digits and topping out in the teens. It's more like teens with 20s topping out in the 30s. That's still dry. It's just not critically dry. Add in the heat today. Oh boy, it got up to 102 in Warm Springs, and in the last 24 hours, pardon me, we have a mixture of 90s, lower to mid 90s for most of the high desert bend, got up to 97 degrees, and then Sun River only topped out at 88. That put us realistically at times 10 to 20 degrees warmer than what we were 24 hours ago. Right here, right now, we're running between 1 and 16 degrees warmer than it was this time yesterday. Actual temperatures are mostly in the 80s and 90s. Where we're in the 90s, it's 93 in Prineville, Redmond, Bend, 91 in Madras, 80s for Paulina at 83, 84 in Sun River, and 87 at both Sisters and in La Pine. But look at Warm Springs 101. We got up to 102 earlier. That's what it was during the evening lineup. And then just a quick check, yeah, the latest numbers have the high today as 102 in Warm Springs. Now tonight, it does not cool down much. It's going to be mild. We're looking at 60s with some 50s. By tomorrow, temperatures topping out well into the 90s. And once thunderstorms start up, notice that big steep drop in temperatures between 3 and 5. It's going to cool down a little bit, but it's almost like using air quotes when you say cool down. We're going from 90s to 90s, you know? And then getting a little cooler through the overnight hours. So when it comes to the UV intensity forecast, both today and tomorrow, the sunshine is being filtered. Today it's filtered because of some clouds and more smoke. By tomorrow we keep the smoke and more clouds are expected. And there will be periods of clearing. That's why it's still going to be high. But outside of that, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, very high UV intensity. Also tomorrow brings that chance of some thunderstorms. Not everybody getting wet, though. So roller coaster temperatures are on the way. Tomorrow, we're bringing even more heat. Then after Wednesday's system, we get a dip in temperature. Still in the lower to mid-90s, though. By Friday, crank that temperature up. By Saturday and Sunday, coming back down closer to average for this time of the year. The average high is 89. We'll be on either side of that later in that planner. Now, your forecast model shows a couple of things. First, it shows the remnants of a LIDA, and it shows where that post-tropical low is, and that's the moisture that's being fed right into the Pacific Northwest. Now, when we look a little closer through the overnight hours, this is a different forecast model than the one we were using earlier. That was a high resolution forecast model. This one is the one we typically use on air every night, and it does show that through the overnight hours, some periods of clearing. By tomorrow, a few showers by noon. Some thunderstorms expected. So this one is verifying what we were seeing with that high resolution forecast model. And then it probably shows that by Thursday, more sunshine than clouds, a few showers early. This one actually showed a few showers earlier. And then by Friday, sunshine and bring in the heat. Again, by this weekend, we continue with the same pattern, but temperatures dip down a little bit. So when we look at the long-range forecast model, pretty much shows the same thing. By Thursday, Friday, Saturday, yeah, more sunshine than clouds. This one even showed some of those thunderstorms over eastern Oregon Thursday. So let's talk totals. I'm going to go ahead and get to the end of this real quick. Tonight and tomorrow, we're looking at scattered thunderstorms, some showers, not everybody getting wet, and that's really the only chance of rain we have through the next 7 days. So when it comes to winds, a little breezy at times. Those gusts not too bad, 10 to 20 miles per hour. I think I just went backwards. Let's try that again. When it comes to our winds trend, we're staying at a light breeze tonight. Tomorrow, breezy at times. Actually, it could get gusty at times around some of those thunderstorms. By Thursday, wind speeds pick up a little bit. So tonight, mild, smoky, 60s, some 50s. By Wednesday, 90s, a few triple digits and a couple of 80s. That better chance of thunderstorm activity. And going forward, through the next 7 days, 90s stay in our forecast through Saturday. Then by Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're dipping back down into the 80s. That's a weak front rolling through. It doesn't bring anything in the way of precipitation. It brings more clouds, the dip in temperatures, but the biggest headline is A, thunderstorms tomorrow. B, red flag warning. C, more smoke. That smoke stays in our forecast until fires are going to be wrapping up. So as long as those fires continue to burn, smoke is going to be an issue. So we do have a midweek pattern twist with when heat meets moisture, thunderstorms are expected, and that's exactly what's happening tomorrow. Winds are also going to be gusty for many of us. So when it comes to satellite and radar, not much to talk about, just some light showers. So a lot of that not even reaching the ground. The few thunderstorms we have are through the Cascades, right around Willamette Pass north of Crater Lake. That's the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We'll have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecast. See you then.